ZocDoc is a free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. We're talking about thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed doctors and specialists. You can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat almost any condition you're searching for. Book an appointment with a few taps in their app and start feeling better, faster with ZocDoc. Go to ZocDoc.com/something and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/something, ZocDoc.com/something.
Hi, I'm Steffany Strange. Want to hear something scary?
Hey, my sweet Strangerlings. We're heading into the holidays, and we thought you'd enjoy some nostalgia from Something Scary for the next few weeks. Longtime viewers may remember these compilations that we used to do, so we are excited to bring them back. Hope you enjoy.
Thanks for agreeing to this, Sarah. Are you comfortable?
Yes, I am.
Okay, why don't we start with how you're feeling right now?
Numb. Just like every other day. It never gets easier.
I understand. What you've been through is tough. Why don't you take some deep breaths and let's start at the beginning, okay? Is that okay with you? Let's start with Tom.
All right. What can I say about Tom? I really miss him, you know? God, I really do. It's the little things, you know? Like when I'd pull some clothes from the wardrobe and his cologne would still linger there. Luke was the only thing that kept me going.
Luke's your son, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was about a year after we had him that we found out that Tom had cancer. He hadn't been feeling well, but he had been putting off seeing a doctor. There was just so much to do in those early years, starting a new life together. The doctors said if only he saw them sooner, they may have detected the cancer earlier. Then it may not have spread. Then it may have been operable. Then he might still be alive. It was hard seeing him waste away. He was so sure that Luke was going to be a sports star like his dad. He couldn't wait for Luke to be old enough for them to throw a ball around in the yard together. By the time Luke was old enough, though, Tom was already too weak to even lift a ball, let alone go outside. He would just lie in bed all day, too exhausted and weak to do anything. Instead of playing sports together, they played pen and paper games. Luke really loved playing hangman, though. He loved guessing letters at silly words or phrases his father would come up with. And he really loved drawing that little hangman figure. He drew that a lot. He was terrible at the game, but it didn't matter. All that mattered was his dad loved playing with him too. I would sometimes find them both asleep in bed, covered in paper. Tom would get tired easily and had this habit of dozing off. But rather than wake his dad, Luke would decide it was his nap time too. He'd crawl right next to Tom and fall asleep hugging him. That day came when Luke woke up, but Tom didn't. When I found them both, he was holding on to Tom, hugging him tightly. He was crying and pleading with his dad not to go. "I love you, Dad. Please don't go. We still haven't finished our game yet," he cried.
And how did Luke handle everything afterward?
He became very quiet and sullen, kept holding on to that paper pad and wouldn't let it go. I once asked him if he'd feel better if we played hangman like he used to with Tom. He just shook his head. To him, it didn't feel right for anyone else to finish it.
But that changed, right? Your report said...
Yes, it changed. About 4 months after Tom's death. Luke bounced back to normal. I just thought it was because children are more resilient, you know? I was cleaning his room one day and found his notepad. I flipped to the last page with that unfinished hangman game. Except he had completed it now. And it wasn't the last game anymore. There were dozens of pages filled with new games of hangman. When Luke got home from school, I asked him about it. He was a bit angry and a bit scared, but he eventually said he'd tell me if I promised not to get mad or punish him.
So, what was going on?
His best friend at school had seen how sad Luke was about the death of his father, so he gave him a Ouija board. He told Luke it was for speaking with the dead, so now he could talk with his dad. Luke told me he had been using it and has been playing hangman with his dad ever since.
How did you react to that?
I didn't know what to think at first. I was skeptical, shocked, horrified, all at once. Part of my mind was flashing warning lights saying it's dangerous to be playing with spiritual forces we don't understand. Another part was saying it's complete horseshit. But all that noise was drowned out by the only question I really cared about. Did it work? I was desperate. I wanted to talk to Tom again so badly. I would have given anything for a chance. So after Luke had gone to sleep, I took out the Ouija board and set it on the dining table. I placed my finger on the glass ring and waited. I whispered, "Are you there, Tom? Please let me know if you're there." Nothing at first. Then the ring started to move. It moved to the hello in the corner. I gasped and let go of the ring. I must have just sat and stared at that thing for like an hour as if it was possessed. Well, I guess it was, kinda. I placed my finger on it again. I asked, "Is that you, Tom?" The ring edged up to the yes in the corner. Where did I get the scar at the back of my head? The scar was hidden under my hair. No one except Tom even knew about the accident that created it. VENICE. My eyes were so wet with tears. The impossible was happening. It was Tom, and we were talking. I told him I loved him and missed him so much. My finger was still on the ring as it started moving. NOTMUCHTIME. What did he mean? Was he trying to say we didn't have enough time together before he died, or that he doesn't have much time before he needs to go again? "No, you left us too soon. Luke misses you too," I said. LOOKAFTERLUKE. I am, and I will. It's been so hard without you here, you know? Or are you saying you've been looking after him? Because he says you've been playing hangman with him. I waited for a response, but the ring didn't move. I waited and waited, but it didn't respond to any more questions that night. Eventually, I went to bed. But you know what? For the first time for as long as I could remember, I was actually smiling. It may only have been a few words, but to me, it was everything.
Did you try to contact Tom again?
Of course I did. Every day I could. It was my obsession. IMALWAYSHERE. We talked about Luke and how he was doing in school. We talked about our honeymoon. We talked about the dates we used to go on together. FORYOU. We talked about anything and everything. It was sometimes surreal. Sometimes it was even passionate. There's some funny ones, you know. He once even spelled out,
"I watch you shower."
Another time I told him that I didn't want to go to sleep because the bed seemed empty without him.
"I lie beside you when you sleep."
It was almost enough to make me go to bed.
Can we talk about what happened that day you found Luke in his room?
Oh, that. Yeah, I guess. That's what this is really all about, isn't it? That's why you're here? I figured we'd get to this part eventually.
If it's not too hard to talk about.
It's fine. I've gone through it 1,000 times before with the police. What's one more? Like I said, I'm numb now. It's still a blur, really. I had finished making dinner and called for Luke to come down. He usually yells back to me to tell me he's coming, but he didn't respond that day. I eventually tired of yelling and went to his room to get him. He was lying face down on the floor. His neck was twisted at an odd angle and his eyes were staring blankly at the wall. Near one hand was his pad and pen, and that damned cursed Ouija board near his other. I just kept screaming his name over and over, hoping he could hear me. I just held him in my arms. My baby. My poor, precious baby.
What had happened to him?
I was hugging him tight and kissing him. I refused to let him go. Not after losing Tom. I couldn't lose Luke too. My eyes landed on the pad he was scribbling on. He had been playing hangman again.
"You were never alone. I am the hangman."
I had a sickening realization that it may not have just been Tom that I had been communicating with.
"You were warned."
At least not after that first night. A sharp chill began stabbing at my heart. The last game at the bottom. A completed drawing of the hangman figure scrawled beside it. It's the last thing I remember. Inside, I'm still screaming, you know? I don't think it will ever end.
The rumors that the mines in Cranberry, North Carolina were haunted go all the way back to the early 1900s. But that didn't stop the Hernandez family from moving there. Ava and her husband Daniel had lost their jobs due to the pandemic. So when Cranberry offered free housing and compensation for anyone willing to work in the mines, they packed up their things and their teenage daughter Luna and moved. While the locals warned about dreadful noises coming from the mines at night, are old miners' ghosts stirring about the property, they figured it was all just nonsense to have fun with the new outsiders. But that all changed quickly. The site manager told Daniel to show up at sunrise or soon after it, 6:10 a.m., but not a minute earlier. However, Daniel believed in punctuality and making a good impression, so Ava and Luna drove him to work extra early. They arrived at the trailer outside of the mine just before dawn, so it was still very dark outside. Daniel and Ava knocked and knocked on the trailer door, but no one answered. Luna meandered toward the entrance of the mine, and the closer she got, the colder it became. Squinting into the deep blackness, something moved. A flicker of light, and then it was gone. She headed back to the trailer. The trailer door was now open, but the inside was completely empty. No desks, no phones, nothing. Just a shell of a trailer. Ava checked her phone to make sure they had the right place. No reception. Suddenly, a muffled sound came from the depths of the cave. A sucking, whispery noise, almost as if it was trying to say something. They stepped outside to listen. The sound continued, over and over again. Slowly, they began to piece together the words,
"They
and
breathe."
Luna told them she may have seen the site manager in the mine. As they stood on the lip of the entrance, it grew quiet again. They all moved a little further inside, and Daniel called out the site manager's name. An earth-shaking sound came from the deep, and its words were crystal clear. It howled at them.
"The dead, they breathe."
Stunned, just about to turn and run, they saw the glow of a flashlight. Behind the light was the shape of a man heading quickly toward them from the depths of the cave. Daniel called to him, but the only response was a sinister growl. As the dark figure came closer, the spillover of light revealed a miner, carrying tools and a flashlight, and wielding a pickaxe. But there were gaping holes where his eyes should have been, and his skin hung from his bones. The family turned to run, but how did they get so deep into the mines? They had only taken a couple of steps inside, but now the exit was far away. Before the family could grasp the situation, the miner was an arm's length away from Luna, axe up. Luna screamed as Daniel pushed her out of the way. The miner's axe narrowly missed her, and the swing buried the pickaxe into the mine wall, pushing his family ahead of him as they all ran. The miner behind them growled and pulled the pickaxe free. Saving their breath to run, the family barreled for the exit. They could hear the low howl of wind in the cave and the hard breathing and thud of undead boots trying to catch up behind them. 6:10 a.m., the site manager arrived. He saw the Hernandez's truck and looked at his watch. He immediately went to the trailer. Looking in the window, it was empty, save for his desk, filing cabinet, normal office supplies, and so on. A sound came from the mine entrance. A sickening sensation gripped him as he ran toward the entrance, a stitch burning in his side as he looked in and saw 3 puddles of gore. The entire family had been hacked apart, piece by piece. Gasping harshly, tears burning in his eyes, he whispered to himself, "I told them not before sunup." Anya didn't want to come to the cemetery in the middle of the night, but Maisie had dared her to do it. And she wasn't the type who backed down from a dare. Part of the dare meant visiting the oldest grave in the local cemetery, the grave which was said to belong to the tin can telephone strangler. The tin can telephone was originally a toy used in older times. 2 tin cans were attached by a strong wire or cord. You could speak in one end and hear the voice clearly in the other can, no matter the length of the cord. Rumor had it that the strangler used it to lure children away from their homes and murder them using their own toys. After he kidnapped the grandchild of an old witch, he was found dead with that child's favorite toy, an old tin can telephone wrapped around his neck so tightly that doctors couldn't remove it. Somehow, it had fused through his skin into the bone. He was buried with it in a grave in the back of the cemetery marked with a blank tombstone that no one ever carved. Maisie heard from someone at school that if you made the same tin can toy and placed one end on his grave at midnight, then you could hear him wheezing for air when you listened on the other end. While on the call, you could ask him anything you wanted, and since you had summoned him, he must answer you truthfully because he had the wisdom of the dead. Anya didn't believe it was true, but there was no stopping her best friend when she was determined to do something. Maisie explained that the tin can ritual had 2 rules. If you wanted to end the call, you had to kick the can off the grave. And second, you could never open your eyes while talking to the strangler, or his spirit would be free to do what it wished to you. They found the strangler's grave, and once it was almost time, Maisie pulled out the tin can telephone she had made from her backpack and placed one end by the uncarved tombstone. The girls stood in front of the grave and closed their eyes tight as it turned to midnight. Maisie shoved the can into Anya's hand and said, "You go first, then me. I'm asking for lotto numbers." "I dare you," Maisie said. Anya sighed and grabbed the can, closing her eyes. Taking a breath, she held it to her ear and asked about her grandfather who had passed last spring. Then she listened. She heard nothing. Nothing at all. Relieved that the urban legend was fake, she heard Maisie demand, "You're doing it wrong. Give it here." Eyes still closed, suddenly Anya heard Maisie exclaim, "Oh my gosh, I can hear..." But then she stopped talking. Anya shifted from one foot to the other, not fully believing Maisie had heard something, and she wanted another turn. Anya was a little too scared to open her eyes, so she reached out for her friend and asked to take her turn. Hands outstretched, she couldn't feel Maisie near her, even though she had been right there. Anya finally got frustrated and yelled, "Give me the can, Maisie!" And just as she said it, the can smacked her in the face hard. Anya yelped as her hands flew up, covering her face, her eyes stinging. She moaned and rubbed at the sore spot. "Why?" she started. Then suddenly, the can hit her again. Not as hard this time, but still, it did hurt. "Maisie, stop messing with me and let's go home already," Anya begged, still unwilling to open her eyes. The can hit once again, almost gently this time, and Anya heard someone wheezing. Anya froze, terrified, but then realized it was Maisie's voice. It was all one of Maisie's pranks. Anya opened her eyes and saw her friend being choked by the glowing, zombified ghost of the tin can telephone strangler. His gnarled, rotting hands had wrapped the cord of their homemade phone several times around Maisie's neck. Anya realized her friend had been throwing the tin can at the other end at her, trying to get her help. But what could she do? Obviously, they had missed something. There had to have been more to the legend, something to better contain this monster, but she had no idea what it could have been. Anya watched in horror as her friend struggled and weakly kicked at the other can still on the grave. That reminded Anya that she could end the call by kicking the can off that grave. Maybe that would banish the killer's spirit. She ran towards the grave, but before she could kick the can, the ghost yanked it away, and she slipped, falling flat on her back. As she brought herself to her feet, the specter dropped Macy's lifeless body to the ground and focused his attention on Anya. He stared at her with white, otherworldly eyes and wheezed out the words, "You're next." Before she knew it, she was running for her life. "Don't look back. Don't look back. Don't look back." Anya repeated to herself in tears as she ran through the empty streets all the way home. At her doorstep, she shook as she struggled to put her key in the lock. She thought she heard Macy call her name from far away and spun around, gasping for air. There was no one there. No spirit, no Macy, no noise. It was over. With a guttural heave, Anya opened her door, desperate for the safety of her own home. But the poltergeist was already there waiting for her. The last thing she saw was the tin can flying fast and hard at her face. Like the urban legend said, they had unleashed this monster, and he was once more free to kill again.
Cold turkey may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break a bad habit. And as Christmas and the holidays quickly approach, give yourself the greatest gift, which is breaking that habit. And our sponsor today, Fume, can help with that. They look at the problem in a different way. Not everything in a bad habit is wrong, so instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Fume is an innovative, award-winning flavored air device that does just that. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of being bad for you, Fume is here to help you. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking your habit. When I tried it, I was really surprised by the taste. It was super fresh and flavorful. And I really like the look of it as well. But now you gotta try the new Solano Fume, which is made from premium walnut barrel and an onyx-coated mouthpiece that has a slightly softer finish. Start the holidays off right with the good habit by going to tryfume.com/scary and getting the journey pack today. Fume is giving listeners of this show 10% off when they use code SCARY to help make starting the good habit that much easier. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. As the holidays quickly approach, my anxiety is rising. I have to think about all the gifts I have to get all my friends and family, and for me, it makes me incredibly anxious. We love spending time together, but there's so much prep that goes into the holidays beforehand, and I'm sure you can relate. For me, I need a lot of extra time to myself, and I also really find it helpful to go to therapy. Whether it's by starting therapy or going easier on yourself during the tough moments, or treating yourself to a day of complete rest, remember to give yourself some love this holiday season. If you're looking for therapy, give BetterHelp a try. And it's so easy to get started with BetterHelp. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. In the season of giving, give yourself what you need with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/scary today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/scary.
Thanks so much for listening. Like and share if this video gave you the chills. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. See you next time.